Amitoj Singh joining us now. Amitoj, what a day. I think the first word on everybody's mind is relief. And no, we're not talking about the previous presidency. We're talking about the fact that the entire inauguration ceremony went off well, considering the serious threat perception that had been intercepted earlier.
Well, yes, let's just be very clear. It's not just about the fact that the capital has had a peaceful inauguration, even if mostly virtual, because there was just about 1,000 participants, as opposed to what you've seen in the past, in extravaganza, unlike any other in the world, perhaps a celebration of democracy. But at the end of the day, this is Joe Biden, going hammer and tongs about unity. But just think about this. It is not a moment only for the American people or the world that America's supreme leader has, in a sense, once again taken the mantle for, being the leader of the world. But it is also a moment for us journalists, because no statesman you can't really call Donald Trump a statesman, nobody would, but no president of the United States has essentially attacked the media like he had. And now it will not be that he will stop, he will continue to attack the media. It's just that now we will not actually have the weight of an American presidency behind that attack. So it's a huge sigh of relief, not just for the people of America, but also us. And I just want to, say one other thing.
Right.
This is, I think, the theme, the biggest takeaway for me from what Mr. Biden said, is that disagreement should not lead to disunion. I think that is where America is at, and that's the most important thing.
Right. Amitoj, but we've talked about what has happened so far. Let's talk about what next. That is going to be under focus. Now, we know lots is lined up on day one already for the Biden-Harris administration. Tell us what's going to happen immediately now in the couple of hours.
Well, a number of executive orders. We're coming to believe that almost 17 actions are going to be taken by President now, not President-elect Joe Biden. Mr. Biden is going to do one thing for sure. We've talked about this, the national mask mandate for federal buildings and interstate travel in public vehicles or trains or planes. That is where you will have to have a mask. You will have to wear it. That's the first COVID pandemic action he's going to take place. Rejoining the climate change deal, ending the Muslim ban, the travel ban of 7 countries, and also providing a multi-year pathway to citizenship for the millions of undocumented immigrants. They're going to reduce the number of years from 13 to 8 years, which is also very important, I think. But this is not an executive order. This is going to be a legislation. This is day one. The next 100 days are critical, but they are critical not just because Biden has the pandemic, the economy, and restoring world order as a problem, but also this conviction of potential conviction trial of Donald Trump. If he and the Democrats in the Capitol behind me go, aggressively against Donald Trump, it could come and be a big problem with his agenda. His agenda and making sure that the conviction trial happen at the same time is a task. It's a tough one, but Mr. Biden and his team have made it very clear that they're going to go ahead and try to deal with both these issues. Although many experts, political experts, believe that if they actually try to go for the conviction, it could hamper anything that Biden is trying to do in terms of legislation or getting things passed, even by the way, his nominations to cabinet positions.
All right. Thanks, Amitoj Singh, joining us live from Washington, D.C. over there. Let me bring in Nehacharya now, former Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship for President Obama, and advisor to the Biden campaign. Congratulations to you. Big day ahead, but big task ahead as well. We're looking at America, which is extremely divided, extremely broken. Like I said in my introduction as well, we saw the inauguration at the steps of the Capitol, which was engulfed in violence not very long ago. So the task ahead is a tough one. What exactly are the key things that the Biden administration will be looking at?
Well, so I think on day one, as was discussed, the reversing many of the obvious things that President Trump did will be step one, and that's going to be joining the World Health Organization, getting back into the Paris Climate Change Agreement, the mask mandate on federal property. All of these things are obvious first day things. But I think the first 100 days will be really focused on two things: the vaccination plan to get as many as 100 million Americans vaccinated, and then secondly will be a stimulus package to put $2,000 in the pocket of every American to help them alleviate their economic concerns because of the virus. And so I think you'll hear a lot of nominations. There'll be a lot of policies being thought through and developed. But I would say about 90% of the time and energy will be focused on the COVID vaccination plan and the reboot of the economy, because that's obviously the two things that are needed before we have the political capital or the bandwidth to discuss other issues about foreign policy or China or anything else.
And this looks like, I mean, by the course of what we've seen during this inauguration, at least, administration, in fact, or at least a country which wants to move forward from diplomacy, the fashion diplomacy that we saw on the steps of the Capitol, to the fact that you had Pence there present at the inauguration, to the fact that several Republicans have now come in support. So this looks like nation building that is going to happen in the days to come.
Yes, I think it's actually a return to normal. I think the president, vice president have normally attended the inauguration of their successor, and Republicans, Democrats have normally had some alignment on issues, even if it's minimal. So I think what Americans are looking for is really two things. One is a return to civility, which is what a lot of Biden's speech was about. And then secondly, I think people want to get things done. I think there's a real sense of stopping the politics now that the election is over and really focusing on this vaccination drive. You know, the first part of the vaccination drive has not gone well, and I think that's leading to a lot of this collaboration atmosphere you're seeing in Washington. People just know that we have to figure it out, we have to get the economy back on track, and I think you're seeing Republicans and Democrats agree that we need to figure this out and willing to support Biden in the first 100 days to make sure that that happens.
Right. Anish, I can't help but notice its first sunny inauguration in almost 3 decades. That's what all of us witnessed, didn't we? And let's talk Kamala Harris. Well, I mean, hello, Madam Vice President over there. Big, big moment. And this is not just for America. This is for women across the world at this point. I loved the introduction as well. It was Kamala Devi Harris who was called in at the podium. So huge moment. As somebody who has an insight into what's happening, tell us what's in store.
Well, I think it's just to talk about the moment for a minute. You know, my father came to the United States in 1962. At that time, African Americans didn't have the right to vote in America. The idea of there weren't a lot of Indian Americans in this country, and the idea that simply 50 years later, an Indian American woman, half African American, is vice president is really amazing. And it's something that I'm personally very proud of, something our nation is very proud of. And I think you'll see her have a very prominent role. I think not only because she's half African American, half Indian American, but she's also the face of the next generation of the Democratic Party in America. She's early 50s. She's progressive. She represents the largest state in America, California, before she became vice president. So I think she represents the future, and I expect President Biden to give her a lot of responsibility on the global stage as an ambassador for the United States, as well as on specific topics like climate change, on the economic policy changes of the next year. So I think she's going to have a very prominent role, both as vice president, as a very smart woman, but also as the face of the future of democratic politics in America.
All right, Nehacharya, thank you so much for joining us with your thoughts. Congratulations to you. Big day and lots of exciting times ahead. Let me also bring in Cindy Sain now, diplomatic correspondent for Voice of America. Cindy, welcome back to NDTV and congratulations on a new administration. We've just been looking at the entire inauguration ceremony very, very closely right here in India as well. Tell me some of the key things that stood out for you.
Thank you so much, and it's such a pleasure to join your viewers. Yes, it was a message of unity and healing, while also emphasizing that truth is important, and that truth has been under attack during the last years. So it was not from President Joe Biden. It was not a bitter message but it was a message to appeal to all Americans to give him a chance and saying that, stand with me. I will be president for all Americans, and I will work hard for all of you. So it was the sun is shining bright here in Washington, D.C., and the songs by Lady Gaga and Garth Brooks and the whole thing just had a very beautiful, I think, very reassuring tone after the horrible images of violence that we saw on those very same Capitol steps just 2 weeks ago. It couldn't be a bigger contrast.
Right, and Cindy, many firsts over here. People weren't there, but there were flags all over. People were encouraged to watch the entire event virtually. Do you have some sense of numbers of how many people were actually looking into this ceremony? We certainly know people across the world were watching.
Yes, that's right. And I'm afraid I don't have the numbers yet, but I think you're right that this is being watched perhaps even more closely around the world than usual. And as you say, with Vice President Kamala Harris making history as the first Indian American, the first Black woman, the first woman to be vice president. And as your other guest just said, she's going to have a critical role also because she will actually be the deciding vote in the Senate as the vice president. Lots of new legislation coming as early as today on comprehensive immigration reform, and Kamala Harris will be on the national stage with a tie-breaking vote in the Senate.
Right, Cindy, and last question to you. I have to ask about fashion diplomacy. All those women in shades of blue and purple. Tell us, was this orchestrated? Is this thought out? How exactly does it work?
Well, that's a very good question, and I think that there must have been some coordination going on, but people were oohing and ahhing also over Michelle Obama and her beautiful tone-in-tone coordinated coat and outfit, and Dr. Jill Biden with her lovely blues, and then Kamala Harris and some were describing it as periwinkle blue. It was a great day also for fashion, I would say.
All right, Cindy, congratulations to you on a new president. We look forward to what's in store in this administration. Thanks so much for taking our time for NDTV. We also have Nehacharya joining us now, National Director, South Asians for Biden. Neha, welcome back to NDTV and congratulations. Big day. I've been talking to lots of people to try and understand what have been their key takeaways. As somebody, as a South Asian looking at this entire event, what were your thoughts?
I mean, it's history in the making. It's been a long time coming, but what I, really cherish about today is that it's reflective of America. And, minorities have a seat at the table. It's not just, what you've seen necessarily in the past. So it's a very joyous moment and, very overwhelming for us because we worked so hard to see this day happen. And it's here. I mean, he's now the president of the United States.
And it's not just a seat on the table. It's not just a seat on the table. If you look at the lineup of the entire team that has been built in by Biden-Harris administration, it's an impressive, bouquet of people all across. Take us through some of the standouts there. I mean,
even if you just look at purely Indian Americans, I mean, you have 20 just right now to start off with that have either been appointed or nominated, and other South Asians as well. And that's just the South Asian community. You have other Asian Americans, and he's been very careful about making sure that his cabinet, his administration is reflective of America itself. And it starts with the second highest office in the land and then works its way down. So, it's a seat at the table. It's a different perspective. But again, it's reflective of what America is today, really.
Right. And I have to ask you, a lot of people looking at Kamala Harris at the moment with a lot of anticipation. Firstly, it's a joyous moment for women across the world. Doesn't matter if you're Indian or not at this point. But how much should we read into her Indian heritage in here, and how much should we read into the fact of what this relationship and what her being in that position will mean for relationship between India and United States?
I mean, I think that, any presidential administration that comes in views India as a very strong partner, right? And that's just regardless of what it is. I mean, India is a very important part of the world dynamics. So, but, you have that special relationship now that you have that connection, that you have someone who is Indian, is South Asian. But I think what it says more about for us being here in America, for us South Asians, my daughter is only a year and a half old, and I have this taped, and I can show this to her as she gets older, that you can be president someday. Here's a vice president already who's broken that glass ceiling. You can be president. And that's really very important for us.